I saw how in Warhammer Total War, the computer game, Kislev is now a thing. A medieval Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth type force fighting chaos. And it occurred to me, hey, I've got that book in the garage and it's just been sitting there for many, many years. Wouldn't it be nice to just share that with the internet and people can see what the origins were, the first ideas, when Kislev was nothing more than a supplement to Warhammer Fantasy Battle army books.
And so the leitmotif of the kingdom of Kislev is Tsar Boris, Tsar Boris, on his polar bear and winged lancer type accoutrements at the back, looking well mustachioed for Kislev. The icy realm of Kislev breeds tough and hardy people, not only because of the harsh climate, but also due to the constant depredations of the raiders from the Chaos Wastes to the north. And we have Gavthorpe, don't we all love Gavthorpe, who starts off explaining the background, bit of geography, about how the border to the north is ill-defined, the empire is to the west and the southwest, and to the east are the troll country and tundra and the foothills of mountains. Further south, Kislev becomes more hospitable, though chill for the entire year. More farmsteads can flourish in these lands, though quarried stone is in short supply, and so everything is made out of wood and uncut rocks. So we're talking Eastern Europe here, basically. There are 3 cities in Kislev: Prague, Erengrad, and a capital that is also called Kislev. This is starting to sound like the kind of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, or frankly the Ukraine.
Most of the Ukraine was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Who knew? Thanks, Wikipedia.
Anyway, although I'm thrown because Kislev, I'm sure, is one of the months from the ancient Hebrew Bible and Babylonian culture, like June or something. Anyway, I'm sure that was, the inspiration must be from somewhere. The capital of the nation and seat of the Tsar and Tsarinas who rule the land, Kislev is the largest and most developed of the 3 cities. It's virtually on the border with the empire, and many imperial customs and aesthetic values have influenced Kislev life, literature and architecture. Founded as the capital by the Khans and Khan queens of the Gospodar people in year 1. I'm sure Gospod is the lord in Russian, but anyway, the Gospodar people, I think, are the original tribes who made up this lore of Kislev. At the center of Kislev lies the Bokhar palaces, the hereditary seat of power rebuilt during the reign of Tsar Boris Bokhar, after the original palace Gospodarin was all but destroyed during the Great War against Chaos in 778. Then a bit about Erengrad, a bit about Prague, and you've got what looked to be a load of peri-sculpted Polish lancers piling down some kind of 1990s type scratch-built terrain with a few murder holes up there, or rather just places to poke your little crossbow out and take out the enemy. A Kislev cavalry patrol sets out from their base. A bit about the Kislev calendar. Kislev uses 3 dating systems: the imperial calendar, the Gospodarin calendar, and the Ungol calendar. I think the Ungol seem to be a kind of, in this law, they seem to be a kind of Turkic type, Mongol, Golden Horde type group. So this is basically a mishmash of various Eastern European, early Renaissance type peoples and backgrounds. But then again, I suppose in Game of Thrones, what's that? It's also just a mishmash of different things. Important events in the history of Kislev. The earliest thing: the lands north of the Urskoy are peopled by the Rostmen and the Ungols. Except for border raids and the odd skirmish, peace exists between them, and the Teutogens who border their country. So I suppose Teutogen must be like, oh, what's that Russian movie? It'll come to me. Where you've got all these Germanic-like knights wearing white fighting Dmitry Donskoy, or like the noble Russians of the early Renaissance, and the Russians obviously win.
Alexander Nevsky, that's what I meant. Not Dmitry Donskoy. Crikey, this is a bit ham-fisted. Oh well, I'm not really a person for pub quizzes.
And anyway, the timeline moves on with loads of wars, internal wars, wars against chaos, and ends with Tsar Boris dying fighting in the Troll country and the crowning of Tsarina Katarin, who, when we come to it, it is clear is basically just
Elsa from Frozen.
the allies of Kislev. Although the Kislevites would like the world to think that they are alone, the reality is that they do not stand alone against the perils of chaos. They have received aid from others, most commonly from the Empire, in particular from Ostland, the Ostermark and Talabekland, which I think are provinces of the Empire.
Somewhere in there.
During the Great War against Chaos, when the hordes of the North stretched like a sea across the Tiger, the elves and dwarves also came along. And also the Kislevites in turn go and help the happy dwarves. Kislevite religion, I mean, I'm no expert in this, but I reckon they must have had a look at various Slavic gods. You've got Ursun, the father of bears. Unsurprisingly, most usually depicted as a massive cave bear with a crown, teeth, and claws of glistening gold. It is said he can take human form. He has temples. He doesn't have any temples at all, but rough cairns, which I think are just stones, and standing stones in the depths of forests have been raised over the centuries in honor of him. And occasionally, caves are made into shrines to Ursun. He has holy days. Equinoxes, cultists gather to rouse Ursun from his winter sleep and then get their heads bitten off. It doesn't say that, but you know what I mean. Daj, the god of fire and the sun. He took the secret of flame from the sun and gave it to the ancient warrior chiefs of the tribesmen. Without Daj's fire, the long winters would have been fatal. He's normally portrayed as a handsome youth with long flowing hair. He has temples, large open areas so that worshippers can pay homage to their god under the sky in which he lives. The great sky god, like the Mongols had, I think. And Thor, I wonder who Thor is. Thor is the god of thunder and lightning and is worshipped as a warrior god, portrayed as a muscled, square-jawed warrior and a clear ripoff of Thor. Temperament. Kislevites are known as dour, taciturn people, and this is not surprising considering the harsh lands they inhabit. Most Kislevites think their neighbours have gone soft from easy living in fertile lands, so much like the North in Game of Thrones. And wow, look at that. It's Winterfell.
You do have to wonder if all of these Hollywood concept artists have a whole lot of Games Workshop books on their shelves for inspiration, or whether, frankly, all these things are just drawn from the same kind of 5 points of historical inspiration.
The Kislev bestiary, which I thought was animals, but seems to relate to troop types. You've got the Kislev boyar, mid-ranking officers from the Kislevite army are called boyars, which I think were Russian nobles. They get stubborn as a special rule. You've got Kossars. Oh, that's it. I went the Khazar.
A semi-nomadic Turkic people that in the late 6th century AD established a commercial empire covering basically the area covered by this Kislev of law. Thanks, Wikipedia.
The Kossars were an Ungol tribe who worked as mercenaries against the other Ungols at the time of the Gospodar invasion. They had adopted a very unique style of fighting with bow and axe, which they went on to teach to everyone else in Kislev. They are steady in the ranks. Winged lancers, much like the Polish winged lancers who came and saved Vienna from the Turks, I imagine.
Yeah, them.
The mainstay of the Kislev cavalry are the winged lancers, who can trace their lineage back to the original Gospodar knights who rode from the east. They are so named for their large feathered wings, which flap as they spike you through the head with a long stick. And they get glorious charge. The Griffin Legion, the most famous regiment of winged lancers of the Griffin Legion, the highest ranking nobles. These knights travel far and wide. They've encountered a lot of beasts of chaos. They spend most of their time fighting. And I think that's them, the Griffin Legion. And they get glorious charge as well. And mercenaries. Oh wow. If an Empire army does not take a Kislev allies contingent, it can instead take a single unit of the Griffin Legion as a rare unit. And then you've got your Ungol horse archers, who are basically Mongol cavalry, fast cavalry, most adept horsemen in the old world. And these all look like Peri sculpts. Well, they don't, but these look very Peri. And then these are the detailed rules for all of them, with points, not sure which system that's aligned with. And then you've got Elsa, the Ice Queen of Tsar Boris, Tsarina Katarin. I'm sure it's supposed to be Tsareva for a lady, Tsar, but I think Tsarina is what has come down to us in English. She is the Ice Queen of Kislev. From the icy fastness of her capital city of Kislev, the Ice Queen Katarin rules her land with an aloof majesty. Yep, Elsa, the daughter of the fiery and charismatic Tsar Boris. She ascended to the throne in 2517, following her father's death in battle, whilst leading an army north of the Linsk into the Troll country. She is the latest in a long line of Tsarinas descended from the ancient Khan queens of the Gospodars, the powerful tribal group that migrated west centuries ago. Some believe she simply prefers the chill of these frozen corridors of her icy palace, while others say it is a display of her power to overawe would-be enemies and foreign ambassadors, being the Bokhar palaces that have grown a new wing half a mile long, made entirely from glittering ice. Ah, that's because, of course, Elsa is based on
the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale of the Snow Queen, of which I think there's a Russian version.
I'll have to look it up. So this must be derived from the same thing. A time is coming that will see the Tsarina on many a battlefield before the year is out. Marauding tribes of Kurgans and Kyazak push south in ever-increasing numbers, united behind the banners of their Tsars and head Tsars. And these are her rules. She is beloved of Kislev. The people of Kislev are utterly devoted and will gladly die for her. Any Kislev unit she joins becomes stubborn, and everyone within 12 inches gets to re-roll psychology tests. She gets ice magic, of course, as a level 4 wizard. She has Fear Frost, that sword, and a crystal cloak, which gives her a ward save, so she is Nails. You've got Boris Ursus, the Red Tsar, Boris the Bear. No stereotypes there. Could they get away with that now? Tsar Boris Bocha was a fierce warrior and devout follower of the bear god Ursun. He died fighting goblins. That's a bit ignominious. Boris inherited a nation that had done little to recover from the devastation caused during the Great War against Chaos. But all he did was empty the treasuries, hiring mercenaries to retrain the Kislev army, building bridges, roads and towns, fair enough, bit of economic development, and importing black powder and engineers from the empire. So it almost bankrupted his family, but his reign will be forever remembered for his driving spirit and eagerness to reclaim the lands infested with goblins, trolls, beastmen, and other vile creatures. And then those are his rules. Kin of the Bear God. If Boris is taken as a leader, any units can be designated Kin of the Bear for plus 30 points and get plus 1 attack. He's got special armor of Ursun, a shard blade, which is Nails, and of course the bear, who has a winter coat, which gives 5 plus armor save. He causes fear. I mean, not surprising, look at him. And he has the Fury of Ursun, which is some kind of frenzy rule. Ah, shame, the days when they never really had too many miniatures and had to cobble together what they had. You've got the Kislev Griffin Legion box set. You've got these winged lancers. I've got that miniature. Got some infantry, which aren't great. Although I've got some Kador infantry that don't look too different from this.
O war machine, why hast thou forsaken us?
Bit of a scenario: purge the steppes. A small force of Kislevite cavalry assigned to patrol the steppes around Erengrad has discovered a camp of chaos. Not only does its army threaten the security of the city, but it's warping the snowy landscape. A monolith has appeared in response to the chaos forces pleased their dark gods. And you've got mates coming over from Erengrad to back you up. The battle takes place on the snowy plains of the Kislevite steppes. You deploy. The attacking army goes first. Game lasts 6 turns. Raging winter rages throughout the game and makes things difficult for both sides.
More fun than this, hopefully.
Now, these are gorgeous, aren't they? Look at the painting on that. So they then take you through how to paint horses, which over here is actually quite educational for me. Head markings, different ways of putting a bit of muzzled colour. Earthy tones you need to use. Manes a bit different. Look at reference books and the internet. Oh wow, they had the internet then. Bit more detail here. The limb markings. I mean, I think this is quite fascinating and fun. Painting a bit of white or a bit of red, blood red, to kind of add a bit of interest with some checked patterns. They show you how to make trees and then drop a bit of icy, snowy powders, which you can buy in many places these days onto it. Bit of permanent snowy terrain there, a few little hills doused in snow. So they did a bit of thinking. Good for their time. Someone's had a bit of a go at kit bashing their own army using other miniatures from the Games Workshop range at the time. Those clearly look like just knights. And I suppose if you could just walk into the casting room and grab however many winged lancer wings you could make anything. I'm not sure where they got the bears from. I suppose they would have kept quiet about that.
I mean, these days, if you're into 3D printing, if you go to My Mini Factory, there's a whole range of different kinds of Kislev style, Russian, Polish, Lithuanian, Commonwealth miniatures. You've even got bears, and somewhere here, she is Princess Elsa.
Masterclass how to paint wolf tails. Base coat of scorched brown. Keep adding bleach bone and then dry brush. Black boots, saddle straps, tips on gems. A world before contrast paints. Painting the Kislevite troops. And then the Law of Ice, the Anna and Elsa law.
You've got Shardstorm. The caster stretches out her hands, unleashes a torrent of diamond-hard icicles. It's basically a magic missile. Freezing Blast. If there's a water-based terrain feature, like a river, swamp, marsh or lake, you can freeze it so it gets treated as open ground. You've got Form of the Frost Fiend. You metamorphosize into a shrieking taloned creature of Kislev legend. And your caster can fly with strength 5 and attacks 4. Invocation of the Ice Storm. The wizard summons a harsh blizzard that engulfs enemy marksmen and war machines, and it makes it harder for them to shoot. They have to take a leadership test to do so at a -2 modifier. Midwinter's Kiss. The caster breathes a great torrent of purest cold into the ranks of the enemy. 4+, on a 4+, any model partially under a template gets a strength 5 hit with no armor save. Ooh, that's the nasty one, but that's cast on a 10+ on 2d6, so And then cast on a 12+, I don't know how that works. Glacial Barrier. remains in play. The wizard spreads her hands wide. The air itself freezes into a wall of ice. Place a 5-inch by 1-inch strip of paper. Those were the days when people never tried to make 15 to 20 quid out of every single little template. And this 5-inch strip gets put down within 24 inches and becomes impassable. It seems a lot to blow your casting on just for that. And there you have it. On the right is the final page, an illustration in the Kislev supplement showing some mixed peoples of Kislev piling into some chaos marauders. All good stuff. And if you enjoyed me taking you through this small blast from a book of the past, do offer any comments, suggestions. Should I do this again? I've got a number of other books of this era or supplements sitting in the garage. And subscribe if you want to hear more and what are more usually my kind of kit bashing and painting miniature adventures. Have a great evening or day. Cheers.